They have guns, man. Look it. And they're in Canada. This is in Saskatchewan, Duck Lake.
I'm Frank Vaughn. It's August 12th, 2025, and I honestly wonder more often than not if Canada is a bigger security threat to the United States than Mexico itself. The article on screen, Northern Border Terrorist-Related Arrests Soar. This is from December 1st, 2024, just after the election of Donald Trump, but prior to the swearing in. Overall, the greatest number of known and suspected terrorists, that's what KST stands for, have been apprehended under the Biden administration in U.S. history at 1,903. The majority, 64%, totaling 1,216, were apprehended at the northern border, coming from Canada, between 2021 and 2024. Scrolling down a little bit further, we're going to find out the greatest number apprehended in U.S. history at the northern border was 487 in fiscal 2023, highlighting that the problem is getting worse. This in spite of the fact that the formerly porous Mexican border was responsible for somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million illegal entrants into the United States, a fraction of the Canadian border, but we're sending far more dangerous people into the United States. Now, why is that? We'll just listen to Tom Homan. The record number, and Tom Homan, for those who don't know, that is his border czar, the guy who's responsible for getting illegals out of the United States. The record number of people on the terrorist watch list coming across the northern border disproves the most secure border in the world claim made by Canadian officials. President-elect Donald Trump's border czar Tom Homan told the Center Square, "It's really simple math," he said, pointing to CBP data. What they won't tell you are the unknown gotaways coming through the northern border. Canada is an incredibly insecure country, overrun with crime, overrun with foreign terrorist-tied criminal organizations, using our people, selling them drugs and selling them death to make money, which they then launder to finance terrorism here, and more importantly, overseas. We've seen in previous videos that I've done, and maybe I need to revisit it. Maybe I need to show all the same material again. How Hamas and Hezbollah run wild here in Canada doing what they want to do. And Khalistani terrorists and other extremist groups are well ensconced in Canada, making us, I would dare say, a priority security threat to the United States. It's not just about China. It's not just about Chinese triads, as I talked about just this week, infiltrating Canada. It's everybody. We are an international criminal clearinghouse, and the only people that don't know it are those who are getting their news primarily from the MSM, not even listening to their own government, because the RCMP and other ministries of the federal government have fully admitted that this problem exists. And for some reason, the politicians and their supporters are just sleepwalking through this violent madness. In spite of being one of the most heavily taxed people on the planet with an absolutely massive and inefficient civil service, government programs everywhere, but failure to deliver any results seems to be a standard in Canada. This from a pro-immigration website, Canadian Cabinet to discuss citizenship pathways for undocumented migrants. Did you know we have an undocumented migrant problem in Canada? You probably did. You're smart. This is from May 28, 2024. The key part of the article is the number of undocumented migrants in Canada is estimated to range from 20,000 to 500,000. This range includes individuals who have overstayed their temporary status, stayed following a rejected asylum claim, and entered the country without notifying the authorities. These are estimates, but 500,000 might be a conservative number because we are wide open. It's so easy to come to Canada and take advantage of it. This is in addition to the fact that in 2024, when this article was written, we admitted 485,000 immigrants, primarily from India. That's our largest source of immigration is India these days, and 500,000 in 2025, the year that we are currently in. And from what I understand, we are set to exceed this target. These are people who are largely unvetted. We are allowing, as we've seen in the news media, people with criminal records to come into the country, and we don't have the bureaucratic means. We don't have the departmental means to police the people that are here. We don't even know how many people, how many illegal immigrants, how many undocumented migrants are here in Canada, a range of 20 to 500,000. Are we, like, this is an indication of a nation that isn't even serious about itself anymore. We're wide open. Everybody's taking advantage of us, and we lack the capacity to deal with the problem. So I made this tweet last night. It's getting a bit of attention. There is a very real chance. It's not a chance. It's a virtual guarantee. But because I can't put a definitive number on it, because nobody can, I use the language I use. That we have a radical terrorist diaspora here in Canada that is armed and larger than our standing army. Now, our standing army is somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000, but we're only able to deploy for a very limited amount of time about 30,000 of that. We have 50, it's roughly a 50% readiness rate. Morale at record lows. People aren't signing contracts. The Canadian government, trying to deal with the recruitment crisis, introduced signing bonuses, and it's not working. Why? Because you can go and join the Canadian Army and get force-fed DEI propaganda instead of being taught how to kill and defend. No one really wants to do that. The Indian government estimates that there are 10,000 radical Khalistanis right here in Canada, supported by about 100,000. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Sikh population in Canada, by official tallies, is around 800,000. Sikhs themselves put the number around 1 million. That's well over 1 in 50 legally recognized Canadian citizens. That's a lot of people. And if even a percentage of that is radicalized, that's not good news for us. Now, we have all kinds of... You've seen the clip at the beginning of this video. Those are Sikhs driving around Duck Lake. For those of you who don't know where Duck Lake is, here's Duck Lake, Saskatchewan. Very rural, very in the middle of nowhere, probably an hour and a bit, I'm guessing, from Saskatoon. Completely blocking the road. Go back and watch the clip. Blocking the road while they're just firing into somebody's field or firing into the bush, doing what they want. A First Nations put out an article saying that they're impersonating police and harassing single women who are alone driving in their cars, trying to pull them over. And what is Scotty Moe up to? Well, he's very proud of Blake Tierney. Isn't that great? Denison Mines Corporation has received provincial environmental assessment approval for the Wheeler River project. That's important too, I guess. Good afternoon. Backroads Ranch near Middle Lake in Saskatchewan. It's like it's creating this impression that all is well and everything is hunky-dory and everything is perfectly normal. And meanwhile, Saskatchewan has a massive crime problem. Now, as I've highlighted on this channel, if we break it down demographically, a lot of the crime is coming off reserve. But where exactly are the drugs coming from? Where are the guns coming from? What's actually happening in Saskatchewan, and how is it an indicator of what's happening all over this nation? As people are caught, as I highlighted in a video this week, producing $25 million worth of marijuana. 16 people are charged. All of them have last names, which I would bet my bottom dollar they're linked to Chinese triads. And they're all released same day on a promise to appear, back out on the street. They'll probably disappear and never show up in court. And it happens every single day. Meanwhile, we're finding people. Actually, I got to go over here. Hopefully I bookmarked it. This guy, $28,872 for walking in the trees. Raghu Venugopal, MD, he says, I apologize to every single firefighter in Canada who left their family and put their life on the line as our nation burns from coast to coast, that there are selfish people like this in our great nation. The rest of us respect your sacrifice. The man tried to go walk in the bush. He didn't set a single fire. This man's reaction is to pre-crime. This guy didn't do anything. But in Saskatchewan, a volunteer firefighter who set 30 fires in a month was sentenced for arson. I know I talked about this yesterday, but it's really important because he never did a day in jail. He never faced a $28,000 fine. Real criminals, and this is key, real criminals, real terrorists, real money launderers, really bad people in Canada don't go to jail. They get kicked out by the court system and they get to keep reoffending dozens of times. They never stop in the pursuit of their business model. And meanwhile, guys trying to walk in the bush they have the book thrown at them. People who are part of the Freedom Convoy have the Emergencies Act called upon them, have their charter rights suspended, have their ability to bank in this country removed. Meanwhile, terrorists are laundering billions of dollars through Canada with reckless abandon, and they have the official, it seems anyway, endorsement of the government. When you have, in the last federal election, a Liberal candidate called for his opponent, his conservative opponent, to be seized by the people and turned into the Chinese consulate for an award. No one got charged. No one was charged criminally. It wasn't espionage. It wasn't treason. It wasn't anything. It just went away. And for what it's worth, the Conservative Party of Canada let it go away too, because they have the same infiltration problem. These networks are taking over our politics. Did you know that right here in Canada, we participated in something called the Khalistan referendum? The Khalistan referendum is an unofficial, non-binding referendum organized by Sikhs for Justice. Who are the Sikhs for Justice? An organization that India is asking to be labeled as a terrorist organization. It's based in the United States. This was March 18th, 2025, and they are lobbying. India wants Sikhs for Justice listed. Sources say request conveyed to visiting U.S. intel chiefs. Sources say Gabbard says she heard about security concerns from India. Of course, Sikhs for Justice says there's nothing to see here. But I want to call your attention. The Indians said there's about 10,000 Khalistani radicals here in Canada, supported by about 100,000 Sikhs. However, in Canada, on 19th September 2022, about 110,000 people participated in the referendum in Brampton. The referendum results were not disclosed by SFJ. A second referendum was held on 10th of September 2023 at the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, BC. And that referendum had a combined, the group Sikhs for Justice claimed the combined voter count crossed 200,000 people. On 28 July 2024, a fourth round of referendum was held in Calgary. All across this country, Surrey, Calgary, Brampton, it is clear that hundreds of thousands of people voted in this referendum, and I'll bet you any money. I'll bet you a large amount of money that the vast majority of people who participated voted in favor of carving a Khalistani republic out of India. My question is, why is Canada becoming India? Why are we importing this problem? We don't need it. We don't want it. We got enough problems of our own. Why is our government seemingly committed to allowing cartels, terrorist organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, Khalistani radicals, Eritrean criminal gangs, human traffickers? Why are they allowing them to run roughshod all over Canada? And why have they hamstrung the court system so that even when the police do their job, as many do across this country, the justice system is always there to ensure that the criminal ends up back on the street so that there's zero disruption? I wish I was making this stuff up, folks. I really do. And shout out to Faye Knox. If you're watching this, you reminded me, you said yesterday I'm yelling too much again. And you have a point. It's hard, it's hard not to yell about it. Because I feel this. Peel Police's record drug bust dismantles transnational criminal organization, June 10th, 2025. Between February and May 2025, information from Peel Regional Police led to CBSA intercepting a commercial truck at the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor, which led to a seizure of 127 kilos cocaine concealed in a trailer. and the arrest of the driver. This was, where's the number? $50 million worth of coke. The Peel Regional Police, the largest, here's the talking points, largest drug seizure in the history of Peel. 2 illegal loaded semi-automatic handguns were seized. So, I mean, if you're a handgun owner, a legal handgun owner in Canada, you know that even if you take them outside your house, it's illegal. You can't even take them to the range without a permit to transport them. So automatically, the law didn't stop this. 9 individuals arrested from Ontario with a total of 35 charges. And I'm here to tell you, of the 6 that have had bail hearings, see, there I go again, yelling. Of the 6 that have had bail hearings, they've all been released. They're out there now with conditions, but they're out there. The others are still awaiting their bail hearings in Brampton. So, the police did their job, but the courts in this country and criminal justice under the Liberal government, which somehow the Liberals keep winning elections, they're riding high in the polls. People seem to just love this, or they just don't know about it. Federal investigators take down the largest, most sophisticated drug superlab in Canada. Now, I know you've heard about this before. $500 million value. One dude charged. His last name is Singh, and he might still make bail. The bail hearing is still ongoing. So we are tying up the justice system. First off, one guy has been charged. The owner of the land didn't even get charged, though he's named in the civil forfeiture case. One guy, $500 million lab. And I've joked in the past about how this guy should be responsible for government ministries, or people should hire him because he's the most efficient individual ever been engaged in criminal enterprise. He's muscle, he's production, he's the network, he's sales. We all know that's not the case. Where are all the people he worked with, and why is the justice system still arguing and wasting its time talking about whether he's going to make bail or not? I mean, in any just country, the guy would be thrown in jail and the key would be thrown away. And they'd be finding out where everyone else is. This happens in Canada every single day. And tens of thousands of our people have died as a result of the drug epidemic that the governments of our land have unleashed on this country. At the same time as they talk about safe supply and legalizing hard drugs and needle exchange programs and injection sites. Now, admittedly, some of these things are getting pushback. The attempt to make it culturally acceptable to have drug addicts everywhere is receiving pushback from society, but I think it's more nefarious than that. I think the government is completely and totally aware that we are a narco state, and they enable it. And the push for legalized hard drugs, the push for safe supply, as they call it, is actually about mainstreaming hard drugs. So you can bring the cartels and the criminal networks out of the cold, and you can legalize them. And they can operate in plain sight. I think that's the goal, is to normalize all of this, which is why I said there is a very real chance that we have a radical terrorist diaspora here in Canada that is armed and larger than our standing army, maybe even larger than our police forces. We are utterly incapable of handling it. We don't have the will. We don't have the manpower. We have unleashed hell upon the Canadian people, and we've charged them dearly for that hell. So much so, this almost deserves to be in a separate video, but the Association of Canadian Early Learning, 5 years later, here's the reality of $10 a day childcare. BC, only 16,000 of 159,000 licensed spaces at $10 a day. Wait lists so long, some centers closed them entirely. Ontario, wait lists have more than doubled in some reason. Kawartha Lake's wait time, 6.4 years. So by the time your kid actually manages to land one of the daycare spots, they've already grown up, and you might as well forget about it. But I don't want to lose sight of my vision on this issue, which is it is not a victory to have to work so hard just to eat and sleep. So hard that you never see your family. You shove your kids into $10 a day daycare. We live in a country overrun by criminal enterprise, overrun by terrorists, the most corrupt, maybe evil country in the West. There's a whole pile of Canadians who've got their heads in the clouds, the vast majority, who think this is a great place, who think this is a polite place, who have this image of Canada that doesn't actually exist anymore. It's being erased day by day by the same people who promote that unrealistic vision of what we are. What we've become is a country where you can't survive, where you seek to shove your kids in the cheapest form of daycare possible so that you can go work and be a tax slave, so that you can just eat and sleep. We've become a country accustomed to declining notions of actually having a material dream, where politicians like Olivia Chow and Tim Houston proudly announce CCAN homes for senior citizens so you can go and live in a shipping container after working your entire life and paying all these taxes and letting someone else raise your kid, a person who is more interested in the contents of their smartphone than they are in the well-being of your children. I don't know how many of you have had the experience. I know I've had it more than once, where you're in a public park with your kids and the daycare kids are running up, begging to be pushed on the swing, begging for attention, just wanting focused attention. And all the daycare workers are just on their cell phones, doing their own thing, probably reaching out to their own family, who they don't even get to see because they're busy working being tax slaves too. Meanwhile, for all the money that you pay, you can't get health care. It's illegal to buy it. You can't get it from the public system. You got to wait in line. People dying in ERs waiting for care. Crime overrunning your streets. An affordability crisis where people can't afford to buy anything. That housing is so expensive. And yet the real estate market is tanking all at the same time. Doug Ford has a press conference where he proudly announces that 800,000 people found their way to Ontario in the last year, with only 5,500 housing starts and nobody buying condos. Where the hell are they all going to live? And he's proud of it. Your politicians campaign on failure now. They stand in front of failure. They promote the failure. And so much of Canada applauds. So as a result, Canada itself, the nation of the 1980s, is long gone by deliberate design. I don't know if there's any bringing it back. When we have allowed tens of thousands of criminals organized around, as the RCMP says it, over 4,000 different organized criminal groups in Canada, they literally constitute a threat larger than our standing army, larger than our ability to police. We don't even know how many people are here illegally. We barely even know how many people are here legally. And we don't prosecute criminals when we catch them. Doesn't matter how big the crime. You're running a fentanyl lab that can kill the population of Canada 10 times over? We're going to spend months debating your bail conditions because we're worried about your human rights. Forget all the dead people who don't have human rights anymore because they're dead. All the overdoses, all the addicts, all the people's human rights who just want to go about their business, the poor kids who are just trying to get to school without having to run into somebody smoking meth on a public bus. If I may, this country's shit. I apologize for swearing, but my God, it's so bad. So if I'm the United States, if I'm the Trump administration, and I am serious about doing something about the internal domestic conditions of the United States, if I'm worried about terrorist infiltration, if I'm worried about drug smuggling and trafficking, if I actually want to solve these problems, if I cast my eye about the world and I look for a principal security threat, Canada's near the top of the list. Not China, not Mexico, Canada. One of the reasons I think Mark Carney is going it alone, as Europe cuts deals with the United States, as everybody else seems to be wanting to sit down and do business, We're gearing ourselves up for a fight, and so-called opposition leader Pierre Poilievre more or less just adopts Carney's position that the Americans have to drop all their tariffs while we keep ours. Completely insulting, completely unfair. If I'm the Americans, Canada, not China, is the number one security threat for more reasons than I can possibly put in one video. I've covered so much of this on my channel. I can't believe the depth of the information as to how bad things have gotten with a mainstream media that's silent, with a political class that is silent, and with a group of Canadians, in spite of the fact that they're tripping over the evidence in the streets every single day, doesn't have the curiosity to ask what's going on. Which is why, I guess, on this channel, we try to tell the story. Whether we're effective or not, I don't know. But I keep trying. I'm Frank Vaughn, and thanks to everybody for your support. You guys are great. I want you to know that. I know I ranted a bit yesterday, but the people who have helped build this thing to this point, you're all wonderful. You're all awesome. I appreciate you. And if you want to support the effort, you know what to do.